My girlfriend dumped me because one of her friends claimed I wasn't good enough for her. But when she showed up that same night, begging to come back, what I did next completely stunned her. I'm a 30-year-old guy born and raised in a small Midwestern town, and this story has been sitting heavy on my chest for years. I think it's finally time to let it all out. I want to tell you about Natalie, my ex, and how everything slowly fell apart between us. The whole thing started way back in high school, so that's where I'll begin. Natalie and I crossed paths during our sophomore year. Unlike some of the louder, look-at-me girls in our grade, she kept to herself. She had this quiet presence, like she lived more in her head than out loud. But once you got her talking, man, she lit up, like her mind was overflowing with ideas, dreams, and stories just waiting to be heard. She told me she wanted to work in publishing someday, maybe live in a big city, surrounded by books, and even write one herself. I was hooked from day one. Me? I wasn't chasing any big dream back then. I wasn't slacking off or failing classes, but I didn't have my life all mapped out either. I was the kind of kid who always had a wrench in his hand, fixing something or other. If something jammed or busted in shop class, I was the guy the teacher called. If a buddy's parents had a leaky sink, I'd be over there with my toolbox. Somewhere around junior year, I realized I could turn those skills into a career. So while other teens were stressing over SATs and prom dates, I was laying the groundwork for a plumbing business. By senior year, Natalie and I were basically joined at the hip. We went to prom together, watched cheesy romantic comedies in my parents' basement, and stayed up late talking about where life might take us. I don't know how else to say it. We just had something. She was my first everything. First kiss. First love. And eventually, my first heartbreak. But we'll get there. When Natalie got accepted into a top university, I was thrilled for her. I still remember that day. She came running over, clutching the acceptance letter like it was treasure. I picked her up in a bear hug and didn't want to let go. That was Natalie, always dreaming, always pushing for more. When she left for college, I didn't see it as a breakup or an ending. To me, it was just the next step in our story. Back home, I kept building my plumbing hustle, and by then, it was turning into a real business. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills and gave me purpose. I wanted to ease some of her burdens. So I helped with her rent, sent money for books, and mailed care packages full of snacks and handwritten notes during finals. I'd drive 4 hours just to spend a weekend in her tiny dorm room. It was exhausting, sure, but I never hesitated. She was mine, and I was proud to support her. Still, there were moments when it felt a little one-sided. Her days were packed with classes, internships, and networking events, and I got that. Really, I did. But sometimes I'd call or text, and I could tell I was pulling her away from something she saw as more important. "Sorry, I've just been slammed," she'd say. Or, "Can we talk later?" Only later didn't always happen. And yet, whenever I saw her in person, it felt like nothing had changed. We'd walk around campus, grab coffee, sit cross-legged on her floor, just talking about life like no time had passed. Those moments made all the effort feel worth it. After graduation, she landed a job at a big-name publishing company. It wasn't her dream gig. She wasn't editing bestsellers or writing novels, but it was a foot in the door. She was over the moon, and I was right there cheering her on. I honestly believed we'd made it through the hard part. I thought now we could finally start building something real. Around the same time, my plumbing business took off. I hired a couple of guys to help with the workload and was even thinking about opening a second branch. I took pride in what I'd built, even if it didn't come with a corner office or fancy title. Natalie would joke and call me the CEO of Pipes, and I loved that. It meant she saw the value in what I did. For a while, everything just worked. I kept showing up for her like always. Whether it was cash, dinner, or just being there when she needed someone, I did what I could. Weekends were for road trips, junk food, and binge-watching shows we both loved. It wasn't a fairy tale, but it was ours. Then I started to notice the cracks. Her job became her whole world. She loved it, sure, but it felt like she was racing, trying to prove something. Maybe to her boss, maybe to herself. I'd suggest slowing down, taking a break, but she'd brush me off. "You don't understand. In this field, it's all about the hustle." I tried to be patient, but I could feel the distance growing, creeping into the quiet spaces between us. I didn't want to admit it. I kept telling myself every couple hits rough patches. We'd been through so much, grown up together. That had to count for something, right? If anyone could beat the odds, I always figured it'd be us. That's what I believed, right up until Tessa entered the picture. Tessa worked with Natalie, and at first, she came across as perfectly friendly. Natalie would mention her now and then. Tessa says she wishes her boyfriend was as supportive as you. Or, Tessa thinks it's adorable when you bring me lunch at work. It all sounded harmless. People talk about their relationships with coworkers, right? I didn't think twice about it. But Tessa wasn't just chatting. She was planting seeds, tiny doubts that didn't seem like much at first, but slowly grew into something real. I first noticed something was off when Natalie shared a lunch conversation they had. "You're lucky your boyfriend encourages you to follow your dreams," Tessa had said. Sounds sweet. But then Natalie added. She also said most guys who act supportive are actually controlling behind the scenes. She asked if you ever use money to guilt trip me. I laughed. Seriously? I'd never once thrown money in Natalie's face. If anything, I bent over backwards so she could focus on school. "I've got the rest covered," I always said. But that talk clearly left a mark. Natalie suddenly started insisting on paying for little things, gas, coffee. It wasn't the money. It was the shift in energy. Then came the nitpicking. One afternoon, I dropped off her favorite sushi at work. She'd said she'd skipped lunch to finish a project. She texted later. "Thanks, that was sweet. But Tessa thought it was kinda weird you didn't ask what I wanted first." That threw me. I did get her favorite. What was there to ask? Another time, we went out to celebrate her promotion. I picked a restaurant she'd been excited to try for months. We were having a great time, until she said, "Tessa thinks I should have picked where we went. She said you always make the decisions for us." That stung. I wasn't trying to control anything. I was trying to do something thoughtful. But suddenly, even kind gestures started feeling like traps. It didn't stop there. Tessa had opinions about everything. One evening, I was elbow deep in her clogged kitchen sink when Natalie said, "Tessa asked what you do?" I told her you run a plumbing business, and she said, "Ah, that's cute." Cute? I built my business from scratch. Grit, sweat, long nights. That wasn't even the worst part. Natalie added. She also asked if I ever wished you had a more polished job, like something in an office. That hit me hard. I don't wear a suit and tie, but I've always been proud of what I built. That business paid her rent, covered books, gave us freedom. "Don't take it personally," Natalie said. "Tessa's just blunt." But I could see it. Her words were sinking in. Natalie started asking things she never asked before. "Do you think about growing the business? Ever thought of taking business classes?" On the surface, they sounded supportive. But knowing where they came from, they felt like digs. What made it worse? Tessa found ways to wedge herself into our lives, even when I wasn't around. There was a work event where everyone could bring their partner. I had to skip. Flooded basement, total emergency. Later, Natalie said. When I explained, Tessa said, "See? That's the thing with guys like him. Work always comes first." Natalie told me she defended me, but I felt the shift. A few days later. "Do you think you'll always have to drop everything for emergencies? What if we have kids someday?" It wasn't just Tessa's words. It was how she said them. Like she was this all-knowing relationship guru, whispering from the sidelines. Anytime we had a small disagreement, Tessa chimed in. "He didn't text back fast? That's a red flag. He planned a surprise? Wouldn't it be nicer if he asked what you wanted?" It felt like she was trying to poison the well, one drop at a time. One of the hardest moments? When Natalie moved into a new apartment. I spent the weekend lifting boxes, building shelves, fixing things. She thanked me, but later said, "Tessa thinks it's great you're handy, but said it's weird you didn't just hire movers. She said it's not worth hurting your back." I was floored. Who criticizes someone for helping their girlfriend move? But the worst part? Natalie started second-guessing everything. "Do you think we're too different?" Tessa says relationships like ours don't last. I kept reminding her of everything we'd built. Years of love, effort, loyalty. But Tessa's voice was always there, whispering doubt. Looking back, I can't believe how deep Tessa's influence ran. I didn't want to believe someone could be that toxic on purpose. But she wasn't just a nosy coworker. She was a snake hiding in plain sight. And I didn't truly see the damage. Until the night everything blew up. I had the whole evening mapped out. That night was supposed to mark the beginning of a brand new chapter for me and Natalie, the woman I thought I'd grow old with. Instead, it turned into the night that shattered everything. We'd been together for nearly 10 years, from teenage crushes to full-grown adults. Through every bump in the road, I never once questioned our bond. So I figured it was time to take things to the next level. I thought maybe a proposal would ease the doubts she'd been having lately, show her how serious I was about our future. I'd picked out the ring a month earlier. It wasn't some flashy, oversized thing, it was meaningful. I designed it myself, with both of our birthstones shaped into a heart in the center, surrounded by small diamonds around the edge. There was even a little space in the setting to add more stones later, in case we ever had kids. I'd even made a custom proposal box with 2 buttons, one that lit up, yes, and the other, no. Yeah, it was a bit cheesy, but it felt like something uniquely us. I wanted her to see how much thought and heart I'd poured into it, how far ahead I'd planned. That night, I picked her up and took her to a quiet little Italian place she'd mentioned wanting to try. I had reserved a cozy corner table perfect for popping the question. I must have gone over my speech 100 times in my head. Everything started off smoothly. She looked incredible, wearing this emerald green dress that made her eyes stand out like fireflies in the dark. We chatted about her job and how my business was growing. For a while, it felt like we were back to being us. But something about her felt off. She was distant, quieter than usual, like her mind wasn't fully there. Halfway through dinner, I slipped my hand into my jacket pocket to grab the ring box. My palms were slick with sweat, and my heart felt like it was trying to punch its way out of my chest. I was just about to pull it out when she cleared her throat and said, "I need to talk to you about something." I froze, fingers still wrapped around the box. "Yeah," I said, trying to act normal even though something inside me was already bracing for impact. She stared down at her food and said, "I've been thinking a lot about us lately, and I think we need to take a break." I just sat there, stunned. A break? Where the hell did that come from? A break. I repeated, not sure I heard her right. "What are you talking about?" She finally met my eyes, and I saw they were already glassy. I don't know if this is working anymore. It feels like we've grown apart. I need some time to figure out what I really want." Then, after a pause, she added, "Tessa says we're not a good match. She thinks I'm holding myself back." That hit like a sledgehammer to the gut. For a second, I couldn't find any words. This was the woman I'd built my life around. The one I was about to ask to be my wife tonight. And now she was saying she didn't know if I was what she wanted anymore. I slowly pulled the ring box out of my pocket. I didn't open it. I just held it in my hand and looked her in the eyes. "Do you see this?" I asked, voice tight but steady. Her eyes widened when she realized what I was holding. "Is that?" she whispered. "Yeah," I nodded. "This is the ring I was going to give you tonight. I was going to ask you to marry me, Natalie. I was ready to spend the rest of my life with you. But now," I shook my head, "you don't deserve it." She opened her mouth to speak, but I lifted my hand to stop her. "No, let me finish. I've been by your side for years. I've supported you, believed in you, built a life around us. And this? You break this news over dinner like it's a casual update? Thank God I saw your true colors before I made this official." Her face broke, tears spilling down her cheeks, but I wasn't moved. I stood up, slipped the ring box back in my pocket, and grabbed my jacket. "You want a break?" I said, locking eyes with her. "Fine, but don't come running back when you realize what you gave up." And with that, I walked out. I didn't look back. The drive home felt like a fog. My brain was spinning, replaying everything from our first kiss to that moment at the table when everything cracked. How could she throw it all away, after everything I'd done to support her, to lift her up? I kept reminding myself I did the right thing by walking. I held the line. I had given her every piece of myself, my time, my love, my energy. If that wasn't enough for her, then that was on her. I wasn't going to chase anyone who couldn't see my value. When I got home, I left the ring box sitting right there on the kitchen counter. Not as a reminder of her, but of what I deserved. I deserved someone who appreciated me. Someone who believed in me the way I believed in them. Someone who wouldn't throw it all away on someone else's opinion. To clear my head, I did what everyone does nowadays. I grabbed my phone and started scrolling through social media. Terrible idea. I opened Instagram, expecting dumb memes and random food pics. Instead, the first thing I saw was Tessa's story. A party clip. At first, it just looked like your typical night out, music, drinks, people dancing. Then I saw her. Natalie. Slumped into some random guy, clearly wasted. He had his arm wrapped tight around her waist, pulling her close like they'd known each other for years. She was giggling, leaning into him like nothing else in the world existed, and my stomach turned inside out. I just stared at the screen, frozen, hoping maybe I'd misread the whole thing. But there she was, no mistake about it. And then I noticed something else. I've been tagged in the story. But it wasn't a public tag. Tessa had used that sneaky Instagram feature where only the person tagged can see it. She didn't want the world to know, just me. Like she wanted to make sure I saw it, silently, in private. That move alone told me everything I needed to know. I sat there, stunned. Couldn't even move. Just hours before, Natalie told me she needed time to figure things out. And now here she was, basically grinding on some guy like we hadn't just ended a 10-year relationship. Like she hadn't just torn my heart out over pasta. The anger came in fast and hot. My hands actually started shaking. And yeah, it wasn't just about the random dude. It was the fact that Tessa, the same Tessa who had been quietly sabotaging us for months, was behind the whole thing. This woman had been criticizing me, twisting everything I did into some red flag, whispering poison into Natalie's ear nonstop. And now she was casually dropping this footage right where I'd find it. Like it was a final jab, just for fun. I shut down Instagram, dropped my phone on the table, and just sat there, staring blankly at the wall. A part of me wanted to call Natalie right that second, demand answers, but I didn't. She'd made her decision. And now I was getting a crystal clear look at what that choice actually meant. A few hours passed. Then my phone lit up, her name on the screen. I let it ring. Then again. And again. She called 5 times before I finally gave in, more out of curiosity than anything else. "Hello," I said, my voice cold and flat. "Please, just listen," she sobbed. "Let me explain." I didn't say a word. I let her talk. "I didn't know Tessa was going to post that," she said, her voice cracking. "It wasn't what it looked like. It was a mistake." I couldn't help but laugh, a bitter, humorless sound. "A mistake," I said. "You went out and hooked up with some guy hours after telling me you needed space? That's not a slip-up, Natalie. That's a choice." "It wasn't like that," she pleaded. "I was drunk, and Tessa introduced us. I didn't even realize what was happening until—" "Until what?" I cut her off. "Until Tessa whipped out her phone and made a highlight reel? Come on, Natalie. You seriously expect me to believe you didn't know what you were doing?" "She manipulated me," she said, voice cracking again. And yeah, I believed Tessa was a manipulator. But what pissed me off most was that Natalie was now trying to shift all the blame. "You want to blame Tessa? Fine. But you're the one who let it happen. You didn't say no. You didn't walk away. You chose to let some random guy pull you close like I never existed. That's on you." There was a long pause. For a second, I thought she hung up. Then I heard her sniffle. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was so stupid, and I don't—" I stopped her right there. "Don't apologize," I said, firmly. "You don't get to cry and say you're sorry when you clearly knew what you were doing. You made your choice. Now you live with it." She started to respond, but I was done. I hung up. Then I blocked her number. I didn't want to hear another excuse, another weak apology. Every time I replayed her voice in my head, it made me sick. She kept trying to turn it around like she was the victim in all this, like she was the one who'd been wronged. And honestly, I couldn't even be mad at the guy from the video. He didn't know me. He didn't know me anything. But Natalie? She was supposed to be my person. My ride or die. And seeing her throw that all away like it was nothing, yeah, that broke something inside me. The next morning, my phone blew up. Dozens of texts and missed calls from friends we had in common. I'm guessing Natalie told them what happened, or maybe Tessa's little story started making the rounds. Either way, I didn't have it in me to explain. I sent a quick message to a few close friends saying I was okay but needed some space. I was drained. Mentally, emotionally, I had nothing left to give. All I wanted was to get my head straight and focus on moving forward. Have any of you ever gone through something like this? I keep rewinding the whole thing in my head, wondering if maybe I went too hard. But then again, it all felt too deliberate, too cold, too fast. Natalie let Tessa get inside her head. She gave her the keys to our relationship and then acted like she couldn't stop the damage. And Tessa? I don't even understand how people like her exist. Who makes it their personal mission to blow up someone else's life like that, just for kicks? I don't know what my next move is, honestly. A big part of me thinks cutting them both off completely is the only way I'm gonna get any peace. But then another part wonders if I'm being too cold, too unforgiving. Is this just what happens when people finally show you who they really are? I don't know. But if you've got thoughts, I'm all ears. And yeah, I'll keep you posted if anything else comes out of this mess. First off, I want to say thank you. Seriously. Every single message, bit of advice, and even the sarcastic jabs meant something. One of you said, "Dude, Tessa sounds like she's gunning for first place on America's Worst Coworker, and I laughed harder than I have in weeks. It helped. You all helped. You reminded me that I wasn't nuts for feeling betrayed, and that meant more than I can explain. Sorry, it took me a minute to give you an update. Life's been a lot. Between work, trying to sort through the Natalie fallout, and a few unexpected health curveballs. We'll get into that later. I've had my hands full. I've been running on fumes. But I'm here now, and I want to catch you up. In the weeks after everything went down, Natalie kept reaching out. Long texts, emotional apologies, guilt-tripping messages. She kept asking if we could meet up and talk things out. At first, I ignored her. I didn't see any point in rehashing everything, especially after how things ended. But Natalie just wouldn't quit. She kept trying to break through, and eventually, I gave in and sent a short message back. It said, "Natalie, I've said all I needed to say. You made your decision, and I'm moving forward. Please respect that." That should have closed the book. But of course, it didn't. She started popping up here and there, liking old Instagram posts, leaving comments like, "Miss this day, Red Heart." I didn't acknowledge a single one. I wasn't going to waste more energy on someone who clearly hadn't valued me when it counted. And I sure as hell wasn't going to let her think she still had access to my life. And then, things took an unexpected turn. About 2 weeks ago, I started feeling off. Nothing major at first, just constant fatigue and these weird dizzy spells that wouldn't go away. I figured it was just stress. Everything with Natalie and Tessa had taken a toll, but when I nearly passed out while working, I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. Turned out, I needed surgery. Nothing life-threatening, but serious enough that it had to be handled quickly. I wasn't thrilled about it, but my friends and family really stepped up. Even the crew at my business volunteered to cover extra hours so I could rest easy during recovery. The surgery itself went smoothly, and I woke up groggy but okay. Still in that hazy post-op fog when I noticed someone sitting in the chair next to me. At first, I thought it was a buddy or maybe one of my cousins. But nope, it was Tessa. Let me paint the picture. I'm flat on my back in one of those hideous hospital gowns, hooked up to wires and barely able to lift my head. And there's Tessa sitting there, looking like Florence Nightingale on a personal mission. She had that fake concerned expression, like she'd just spent the last few days losing sleep over me. "Oh my God, I'm so glad you're okay," she said, leaning in like we were a couple or something. I blinked slowly, my brain still catching up, and muttered, "Why are you here?" She gave me this soft little smile and said, "I heard about your surgery and had to make sure you were all right." Had to? From the same woman who had spent months actively trying to blow up my relationship? The irony was almost funny. She kept rambling, saying things like, "I feel horrible about everything that happened with Natalie. You didn't deserve that. You're such a great guy." It was like she was trying to rewrite her own role in all of it, casting herself as the caring friend who'd always had my back. And then she reached out and took my hand. I didn't have the strength to argue, so I just let it happen, but inside, alarms were going off. It all made sense now. Tessa wasn't there because she cared. I could practically see the gears turning in her head. She saw an opening. Natalie was gone. I was vulnerable, and now she thought it was her turn. Lying there, barely conscious, everything clicked. All those harmless comments to Natalie, all the judgmental digs and manipulative advice, it wasn't just meddling. It was strategy. And now that she'd successfully driven a wedge between us, she was trying to slide in and take Natalie's place. It's crazy how clear things get when you're stuck in a hospital bed with nothing to do but think. Tessa wasn't just toxic, she was calculated. She didn't care about me, and she definitely didn't care about Natalie. She just wanted to win. And the thing about people like Tessa, they always think they're smarter than everyone else. That they can lie, twist things, and puppet their way into whatever they want without consequences. Well, she messed with the wrong guy. I've got something in store for Tessa. I'm not going to lay out the whole plan just yet. I want to make sure it all unfolds exactly the way I imagine it. But trust me, once I'm fully back on my feet, she's going to learn what it feels like to be played. So stay tuned. I'll update you when the time comes. Let's just say, Tessa is going to wish she never stepped foot into that hospital room. And to all of you who've been following along, thank you. The advice, the encouragement, even the smart-ass comments, they've kept me going. I'll be back with more soon. Until then, wish me a smooth recovery. First off, wow. I did not expect the reaction to my last post to blow up the way it did. Seeing so many of you get invested in this wild ride. Honestly, it made me feel like I wasn't alone. Huge thanks for all the support, and for the laughs too. Someone commented, Tessa seems like the type of person who'd fake being nice just to adopt a cat for Instagram likes. And I'm still cracking up over that. You guys get it. I know a bunch of you wanted to know what my plan was, so buckle up. Everything played out almost exactly how I hoped, and let me tell you, it was incredibly satisfying. Once I was discharged and started to feel human again, Tessa wasted no time. She started texting me, first in these breezy little check-ins. Stuff like, hey, just wanted to see how you're feeling, smiling face with smiling eyes. Or, let me know if you need anything. I'm always here. At first, I didn't reply. I knew exactly what she was trying to do. But after thinking it over, I realized that maybe, just maybe, if I played along a little, I could turn this into something useful. So I started answering. Just enough to keep her interested. Thanks for checking in. I'm doing okay, slow recovery, but I'm getting there. And like clockwork, she bit hard. Her messages started getting longer, more personal. She was laying it on thick, telling me how strong I was. Saying stuff like, I don't know how Natalie ever let you go. Tessa started tossing out little hints, like breadcrumbs, about how she'd always believed I deserved better and how much she respected me. Then, out of nowhere, she sends a picture of a casserole she made, with a message like, thought you could use some comfort food. Want some company? Yeah, no thanks. I politely declined, but it was crystal clear what she was trying to do, slide her way into my life while I was still recovering. The real shift came a couple of weeks after I was discharged. Out of the blue, Tessa called me. Said she just wanted to hear my voice because she couldn't stop thinking about me. She laid it on thick, talked about how she'd been so worried during my surgery and how she prayed every night for me to pull through. I kept my voice calm and neutral. Thanks, Tessa. That means a lot. Then she hit me with, I feel like everything that's happened, it's brought us closer, you know? It made me realize how much I care about you. I almost laughed. She didn't care about me. She cared about winning. She wanted to come out on top, to be the one I chose after Natalie. But instead of shutting her down right then, I leaned into it. Just a little. Yeah, I said. I guess it kinda has. And that was all she needed. After that, Tessa hit the gas. Texts every morning and night. Calling me babe in messages. Saying we should hang out soon, just the two of us. The thing about Tessa is, she's not hard to read. She thought she was being clever, that she was slowly pulling me in, but everything she did just confirmed how self-absorbed and obvious she really was. This wasn't about me. It was about her ego. She wanted to prove she could have me, just like she'd helped ruin things with Natalie. So I played along. I started texting her back more regularly. I tossed in a few compliments here and there, even agreed to meet up. And I knew, without a doubt, that she thought she had me wrapped around her finger. When we finally met up, she was all over me, laughing too hard at every joke, touching my arm every chance she got, and slipping in comments about how honesty and loyalty were so important in a relationship. It was almost comical, watching her try so hard. Eventually, yeah, things escalated. We hooked up. I'm not proud of it, but it was all part of the setup. The next morning, I ghosted. No text. No call. Total silence. A day passed. Then 2. Then 3. Tessa started panicking. My phone lit up constantly with her texts. Hey, are you okay? Did I do something wrong? Can we talk? Please? She called me over a dozen times, left voicemails where she was on the verge of tears. She even hit me up on Instagram, trying to get my attention. I didn't reply to any of it. By the end of that week, I had a collection of desperate messages and voicemails, enough to paint a pretty clear picture of her true colors. That's when I made my move. I gathered up all her texts, took screenshots of everything, including the voicemails where she was sobbing and professing how much she cared. Then, I sent them all to Natalie. No note. No explanation. Just a dated dump of receipts. And then I blocked them both. Everywhere. Now, maybe that sounds harsh. But let me explain. Tessa had spent months playing puppet master with my life, undermining my relationship, whispering poison in Natalie's ear, and manipulating everyone around her like it was a game. This wasn't about revenge. I didn't want Natalie back, and I wasn't out to start drama. I just wanted her to see the truth. I wanted her to understand who Tessa really was, what she'd thrown our relationship away for. And to be honest, blocking Tessa afterward felt damn good. Like I'd finally taken the power back. Now, I'm sitting on the sidelines, watching the consequences unfold. Tessa thought she was in control, that she could manipulate me like she did Natalie. But I flipped the script, and now she's the one left confused and scrambling. Natalie and Tessa? They've got their own reckoning now. And I'm officially out of the game. But don't worry, Reddit. I'll be back with more. I promised updates, and trust me, this story isn't done yet. Let me recover a bit more, and I'll feed you the next chapter soon. Because guess what? Things escalated. Apparently, sending those texts and voicemails to Natalie triggered a domino effect I couldn't have scripted better myself. Word got around fast, and let's just say Natalie did not take it well. From what I've been told, Natalie confronted Tessa at work. Right there in the office. No holding back. She demanded answers, called her out for sabotaging our relationship, and then hooking up with me right after the breakup. Of course, Tessa did what Tessa always does, played the victim. She said I was the one who pursued her, that Natalie was being dramatic, that it was all a misunderstanding. But Natalie wasn't buying it. She saw the messages. She saw the truth. And she lost it. One of their coworkers told me it got loud. So loud, the manager had to step in. But even then, it didn't stop. Natalie called her a manipulator, said she'd ruined her life. Tessa snapped back, and before anyone could calm them down, it got physical. Yup, security had to get involved. And when all was said and done, both of them were shown the door. Fired. I won't lie, I don't feel bad. Not for Tessa. Not for Natalie. They each made their choices. Tessa got exactly what was coming to her. And Natalie? She let Tessa dig her claws in and didn't realize how toxic it all was until it was too late. As for what comes next, I couldn't tell you what they're doing now, and frankly, I don't care. But me? I'm finally free of all that drama. And it feels damn good. I don't know what the future holds for either of them, and frankly, I don't care. I've finally reached a place in my life where I can actually breathe. No games, no chaos, no wondering what mess I'll wake up to next. Anyway, that's all I've got for now. Thanks for sticking around through this whole wild ride. I'll check back in if anything new happens, but for the moment, I'm just enjoying the quiet. It's been a long time coming. For a while, I genuinely thought the whole Natalie and Tessa saga had finally wrapped up. I figured that was it. I could finally turn the page and move forward. But people like them? They don't exactly go down quietly. About a week after their little work explosion, Natalie showed up at my door. She looked rough, eyes swollen from crying, hair tied back like she hadn't even looked in a mirror before leaving the house. She stood there and said, "It was Tessa. She's the one who filled my head with doubts. She made me believe you weren't good enough. But I was wrong. I see that now. Please, let's fix this." I let her talk. I didn't interrupt. I wasn't angry anymore, just done. When she finally stopped, I looked her in the eye and said, "Natalie, I gave you everything I had. And you let someone like Tessa tear it all apart. You walked away. Now you want to undo that? I can't. I've moved on." She cried, pleaded, begged even, but I didn't budge. I wished her the best and gently closed the door. And wouldn't you know it, the very next day, Tessa tried her shot too. First came a long, drawn-out text from a random number telling me how sorry she was. Said she knew she'd messed up and would do anything to fix it. I didn't respond. So she did what she always does. She showed up uninvited, smiling like nothing had happened, acting like we were still some half-written love story. "I know I made mistakes," she said, trying to sound sincere. "But I know you care about me. We can still make this work." I didn't let her finish. I looked her square in the eye and said, "You both made your choices. Now live with them." Then I turned around, walked back inside, and shut the door in her face. That was the last time I saw either of them. Since then, life's been peaceful. Business is booming. I've expanded operations, brought on new crew members, and taken on bigger projects. I finally had time to hang out with my friends again and focus on myself, something I hadn't done in a long while. And yeah, I've started seeing someone new. She's incredible, genuine, grounded. She doesn't care that I own a plumbing company instead of pushing papers in a corner office. She respects what I do. She sees the value in who I am, not just what I bring to the table. She's kind, honest, supportive. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be, with someone who appreciates me without trying to change or improve me. As for Natalie and Tessa, last I heard, neither of them has found another job, and they're basically enemies now. Mutual friends say they barely talk, and when they do, it's just to throw blame and insults back and forth. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some poetic justice in that. They tore each other down trying to come after me, and I walked away clean. If there's anything I've learned from this whole mess, it's this. You've got to be careful who you let into your world, not just your partner, but their friends too. The wrong people can do more damage than you see coming, especially when they're the ones whispering doubts in the background. So for anyone out there who's been through something like this, don't settle. Don't stick with someone who lets other people decide your worth. Find someone who values you as you are, not who they think you should be. You deserve that much. We all do. Life's good now, and I plan to keep it that way.